Hello, I'm James, amateur radio call sign WA7JNJ, and going to do a little something different in this video. Try and make it pretty quick and pretty straightforward, but I did a presentation at our amateur radio club yesterday and put together some slides based on some things I've been thinking about and learning with the power outage that we had here in Washington State this last week. My power was only out for a handful of hours. My brother's was out for about 3 or 4 days in Issaquah. So I'll share a few of those pictures. I didn't record the presentation yesterday, but thought it'd be fun to share and hopefully just give some insights of what I'm thinking about and where you might be on your journey. I called the presentation Backup Power Learning Journey. And as I go through it, just to be aware, it's not sponsored video in any way. I've purchased most of these items. I've recommended them to my mother and father and different family members, and so it's things that I've used and like, but there's definitely a lot of other great brands out there. So just for concepts and things that I'm learning, hope this helps spark you as you're on your journey with backup power and other things. So in opening, again, it happened Tuesday night. There was wind that came in across Washington. At one point in the evening, I took this snapshot of poweroutage.us and the Washington State focus, and there was about 600,000 people without power at that time. I'm in Snohomish County. There was about 80,000 or so without power, and I know there were still a few days ago still without power. But you can see there that there was quite a few counties and people impacted. My brother lives in Issaquah. I lived there for a couple of years, but he said it's the worst that he has seen from storm impact. And that says a lot because generally in Issaquah there's a lot of winds. When I lived there a few years, we did see the power go out quite a bit at that time. I know things have improved since then. And so this was actually a home just around the corner from him. Or the neighbor right kind of behind him and one over on the left. So the house was hit by 4 trees. The house that's right behind him there was hit by a couple trees as well. So a lot of damage that was done there. I'll speak about the setup that he did here in a little bit and as far as his power, because he was out for about 3.5 days. But at least folks in these situations were safe. There were a few people that lost their lives through being hit by trees or in cars. I did see some photos from someone who works for Snohomish County PUD on just some of the crazy trees that were down and cars that were hit out by Sultan. So just all kinds of craziness around the Puget Sound, but an opportunity to think about power and being safe and some of those backup power things. So first thing I've been thinking about lately, obviously lighting is one of those first things you think about when the power goes out. Something that I have liked, I've got a lot of different lanterns, but I use lanterns primarily or headlamps. I know got a lot of great flashlights as well, but seem to always use lanterns. This is one that I've purchased a few times. It's on sale. Illuminate, it's got the solar on top, it can charge via USB. I like the version where the light is, it's not a clear plastic, so it diffuses the light and it packs down really tight. So I use this one camping and love it for that, or just for a power outage like this. So that's something I've liked. We've bought a lot of the stream lights, gotten some for my parents. I talked to my mom, she loved this one, and my wife likes it as well. It's the smaller version. So it's not rechargeable, it uses batteries, but you can use rechargeable batteries obviously. So I actually do need to buy a couple of these more to replace ones where the batteries leaked inside and I wasn't able to clean it out well. So this is actually on the list here to buy here soon. And then I'm trying to transition or shift to items that have lithium batteries in them that are rechargeable. Have not purchased this one yet, but this one looks like an option that might work. And there's the Olight O-Bulb, the cheaper one that looks like it'd be a great option to buy as well. So that's a little bit for lighting. I mentioned having headlamps, and again, I have quite a few that use batteries. I don't have any that are rechargeable. These are a cheap option for a rechargeable headlamp that I'm looking to get just to have around the house and have a few extras. Small power banks. got quite a few of these, obviously, to charge your cell phone and keep small things charged. That's really what it's for. What I've noticed over the years is that my phones charge pretty slow on the older power banks that I've been using. So this is one of the recent ones that I bought for hiking, and it's a smaller one. The main reason to upgrade if you haven't bought a power bank in a few years is just how fast they charge your devices. And this one was cool in that it had the little meter on the front. So I do love this one. If it's for home emergencies, there's cheaper options. Again, Anchor is really what I bought for all these, the power banks that I do have, and I love them. But there's another cheaper option as well for more capacity that doesn't have the readout on this one. So obviously that's an important piece. I know in talking to my mom, she had gotten this out that I'd given her for Christmas, or one like this that I'd given her, and charged it up. So fun to hear my parents were using that. A Jackery 300. So this is what I bought a handful of years ago. I didn't buy the Plus, but I would definitely recommend the 300 Plus now because it's got the LiFePO 4 battery. The Jackery 300 that I have has the lithium polymer technology, which you can recharge for about 300 times, 300 to 500 times if I remember. But the LiFePO 4 batteries you can charge for around 3,000 to 5,000. So I know different things vary on the recommendations for that, but you get a magnitude of the length of life of the battery and how many times you can recharge them. So the Jackery 300 is great for that next step up small appliances with the AC. I primarily use this for my CPAP machine actually. And so I don't have all the extra things on my CPAP, I just use the air. And it uses about 15% of the power of the battery for me to sleep one night. So without having the heated tubes and the water and all that kind of stuff is primarily what I do. I can get about 4 nights out of this. I do have a 100-watt panel for it as well, and that charges pretty quickly. But this is great for small things or if you use a CPAP. I know my brother has a 300 as well, and he does all the tubes and uses that. I think it lasts him for about 2 nights. So this is one option. Now I do recommend if you're going to get a small power station like this, that to use DC power when you're able. So for my CPAP machine, I did buy a cable. I have a ResMed, I think, device. And so this device will take the DC power from the power unit and go straight to the DC power of my CPAP machine. So what you gain in that is you don't lose or have inefficiency from your power unit switching to AC power back to DC. It's just straight DC to DC. So definitely recommend doing that where you can. And this is one example where I used a DC cable for my CPAP machine. Now, since I've transitioned to primarily using DC only for my small power station, this is one that came out recently, the Anchor 300 DC, and it's a low-cost option, especially when these things are on sale. So 139 bucks as of yesterday, so I'll have to put the date here in the video, but this is a great deal, 140 bucks for basically almost 300 watt hours of power. Again, the same thing basically as the Jackery 300, but a lower cost, a lantern on top. So this is one thing that I'm looking to purchase just because it's DC only, a little bit smaller and a great option. So when you start to think about power outages, most of us think about our fridge and freezer combination. And after being in Issaquah and losing power quite often years ago and then moving back to Marysville, there was about 10 years where we hardly ever had any power outages. Finally did talk and about 4 years or so ago, I'm trying to remember, but purchased a Honda generator finally. Kind of the smaller one. They're quieter, it's Honda, so it's a quality, it's definitely one of those standard things. The inverter is clean and it's just a quality one. So I love having this. It was kind of humorous because when we bought it, about 2 or 3 days later, our power went out for a few days. We would have lost the food in our freezer and fridge if we had not purchased this. So definitely love this as an option when there's a power outage. Now, what you realize when you have a gas generator is, one, it's noisy. Two, you have cables that are running through your backyard or different places into your house, so there's wires all over the house. And there's the exhaust that you have to deal with, so keeping it away from your house. The weather's not usually great when these things are, when there's a storm happening, and so I would try and hit a little tarp up and get it under a tarp so it didn't get rained on when I used it in the past. And so those are just a few of the things. And then you're always worried about someone stealing your generator. So those are some of the things that over the last couple of years I've been trying to think of other options and what might make more sense. I'm sure a lot of folks have as well. So definitely love the Honda generator, but I've been trying to think of something that's quiet, that's easier, no cables, no exhaust, and all those kinds of things. And so last year, that's where I had recommended to my parents a Jackery 1000 Plus. It was newer at the time. The Jackery 1000 Plus has about 1250 or so watt hours of power. It is a good inverter size in it, and so it seemed like it'd be a great option for the fridge. I had borrowed this from my parents to test how long it would power my fridge the weekend before the storm. I did call them the night of and make sure that they were okay or make sure they didn't need it back, because they have a generator and things as well. But anyway, so our power went out at 7:30 or so Tuesday night. Went to pick up my son from practice, and as we're driving back home, it was pretty windy and saw bright green flashes in the sky a few different times as fuses were blowing on transformers driving back. So lost power. It was incredibly great to pull the cord out from the fridge, plug it into the Jackery 1000 Plus that you see there, and start powering the fridge. I did turn off the ice maker just to save a little bit of power. And the fridge is from 2010, so there might be more efficient fridges now. I'm sure there are. But that's when things started. Now, I was looking at the fridge after about 2 hours, realized the battery on the Jackery might go out about 3 or 4 in the morning. So it looked like in total it was going to last me about 7 hours to power the fridge. And so my first thought is, well, I've got a Red Odo 50 amp hour battery. Again, I've used it for amateur radio to power my equipment. I have various adapters for it so I can hook up cables and charge USB devices and do other things. But figured I would try and learn this time, so I took the wires there in the back of the Red Odo, had a DC output or the cigarette lighter plug, and use the Jackery DC plug to plug into that outlet, and was able to get 91 watts charging into the device. So just straight from my LifePo 4 battery, a 50 amp hour battery, was able to charge the Jackery with 91 watts in, while at the time the Jackery was putting 130 watts out to the fridge. So it was pretty cool to see that I was able to charge it or get some power in and extend the life of a 1000 Jackery. But the cables that I was using weren't really made for that, or the wire gauge wasn't large enough. Didn't feel real comfortable doing that too long. So I do need to look at getting some more cables and refining things. But there are a lot of videos about how to use just a standard lithium battery and charge your device, whether it's this Jackery or any other power station. So love to learn about that. Did that for a little while. Now, I mentioned earlier my brother, he had actually purchased the Jackery 2000 V2, which there's all kinds of these models, but it is a newer version. It's a LifePo 4 battery as well, so it has a lot of uses. It's not the Plus. The Plus versions with the 1000 and 2000, you can add expandable batteries on top of the Jackery that are made by Jackery. But the Jackery 2000 V2 has about 2000 watt hours, but you still can charge it with your generator, hook up another battery like I was doing earlier to charge it. And so that worked actually great for him. His fridge he was able to keep going for 17 hours with the Jackery V2. It's a newer fridge, and then every so often he would start his Honda generator up, charge it for about an hour and a half, and then it was full again. So that way he only had to run his generator for maybe 2 hours a day to keep things charged up and keep his fridge going. So that is a great way, and what I definitely like to do going forward. I definitely would love the larger version, probably the V2, just in light of how long it kept my fridge going. So again, I've not purchased it yet, but the Jackery 1000 Plus with solar and extra battery, this is one that I've been looking at. Maybe purchasing this year. We'll see how things go. It'll probably be in the future. But love it for the solar panels. Love it for the 1000. It would keep my fridge going for a while, and then the extra battery even further. Now obviously when there's a storm and the weather and rain and everything, solar panels aren't going to help you a lot. So I have been thinking about just doing a simpler and just buying a simple unit. Again, this is the one my brother bought, the Jackery 2000 V2. Again, Jackery can be more expensive than some of the other brands, but I like it for the quality. When they come out with sales like this is definitely the time of the year that you want to be purchasing power stations, and there's a lot of other great sales and deals. So this is the 2000 V2, 2000 watt hours LiFePO. Again, it worked great for my brother. He didn't have to charge it as much, but he would use the generator as well to charge it. The time, it looks like it's $8.99 plus there's a $100 coupon. So really great deal. A person that I work with in the office, she and her husband purchased this one about 2 weeks ago with the setup with the solar panels and everything else. And then actually the night of the event, they decided to buy the Jackery 2000 Plus, which has the expanded ones and solar panels. So pretty awesome that she was able to get that set up, and that's what I would love to start doing in the future. Getting close to wrapping up, but I have a 50 amp hour LiFePO battery. I use it for my amateur radio. At times it'll power my 100 watt radio for days. But I would definitely love a 100 amp hour battery. And so there's a few brands, Lead Time or Lifetime is one that's out there. This is one example of a sale. Having a lithium battery, a LiFePO 4 battery, is a game changer. You can use all the power pretty much out of the device. It maintains a steady output, so your power is consistent over time and then just drops at the end. A lot of advantages over lead acid batteries that I've used in the past, so I won't go through that, and there's a lot of information out there, but I would love to get a 100 amp hour battery, so that's going to be on the list here soon, so that when I do get a Jackery or other station and or for other things, I can have a way to charge it via battery, a cheaper way to charge it via battery. Another option, again, I've got the 50 amp hour Red Odo, and I'd love to get the 100 amp hour again. So these are a couple brands. There's other options, but these are a couple things that I've purchased or looking at. Now, a shout out to KM4ACK. Watched your video, great video about what you learned in some of the storm recently on the East Coast. And I had not thought about this fully before, but I've been using a 4 amp hour charger for one of my smaller lithium batteries to charge my 50 amp hour battery. So it's not the ideal 4 amp is not the ideal for that size of a battery. And when I'm thinking about it, using a generator to charge your batteries, having a 20 amp smart charger or LiFePO charger is important. So this is one of the upgrades that I want to buy, so that when I do use a generator to charge my battery, I can do it in 2 hours or maybe 3 hours versus 8 or 9 or 10 hours to charge a battery. So this is one of the things that definitely I'm going to look at upgrading, is getting a larger amp or a 20 amp smart charger for my lithium batteries. And then I shared, and I'll share today as well, just a few of the resources out there. There's definitely a lot out there. If you've looked at solar at all, everyone knows Will Pros. We love watching him. One of the reasons is because he'll take these lithium batteries and tear them apart, and you can see what's on the inside, and so you get a feel for the quality and how they're made. So he's a great resource. He also did a recent video about storing your lithium batteries, and he recommends, I think in general, store them at 50% charge. And then at 100% is good. If you're using a solar system, it's good to have them still go to 100% so they can balance each other out and balance the load. But more information on his site. I've gone back to Reway Outdoors. He's got a lot of videos about power stations and solar panels and things like that, and other brands that he would recommend as well. So that's another one. And then Hobotech's one that I've gone back and forth with, or watching his videos. Again, a lot of reviews about solar and backup stations and things like that. So those are a few of the different resources that are out there. There's definitely a lot more. The purpose of this was just to spark some conversation, hopefully for you, and share just a few things that I've been thinking through as in my journey. I would love to have a whole house set up or a much larger setup, but I'm sure all of us are balancing cost and what we like versus what we can afford at the time. So thanks for watching. Always appreciate likes and subscribes and all that kind of stuff. Or if you have any questions, please put those in the comments, or any other comments, always appreciated. Ways to support the channel are always appreciated. I just do this for fun, but there are Amazon affiliate links for everything that I've talked about, and I'll add notes and other things in there as well as you look. If you're interested in the shirts and things like this that I'm wearing, I, for fun, created some shirts and sweatshirts about Summits on the Air, which is an amateur radio type fun thing that I do, where I hike up to mountaintops and play amateur radio. And so I have some shirts and sweatshirts and things like that on that site. So always something to check out if you're interested as well. So thanks again for watching. And I'll say 73, which is amateur radio, for best regards from WA7 J&J. Thanks again.